I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting all over the world through the lens of the principles self-government. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to teach a child not to touch others. In this video, we're going to be talking about touching others and boundaries, and then I'm going to be sharing with you a skill that you can use to teach your child so that they learn how to not touch others. Little children often touch other people. There are very few little children who are not comfortable with touch. All of my children were touchers when they were little, climbing all over everybody all of the time. I remember one time when we had a play date and the friends were leaving. My children were all still really young, and I remember them all like hugging each other, like, oh, bye, and hugging, you know, as if it was like their grandma or their cousins. And I'm like, these are just other random children. I'm like, okay. But you deal with it because they're little and those types of things happen. But then there gets to be a point where you recognize we just can't do that anymore. And I remember when I recognized that it was absolutely not okay. There was one time where my oldest son, of course he was my oldest, I'm just learning about, you know, do they not figure this out on their own, right? And we were with a group of people, and it was like they came over to visit, and he just immediately went and just gave this other 5-year-old boy a hug, and the boy's looking at his mom like, what just happened to me, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to handle that. I looked at the mom and I said, sorry, he's a little bit of a toucher. We'll try to handle that. His love language is touch, to be fair, and I absolutely love getting hugs from my son, and so do a lot of other people, but not everybody is going to want somebody to touch all the time. So how did we work on that? We definitely had to train him to learn his boundaries when it came to touch. And it is something that is possible to do. Even when the children are really young, you can teach them not to touch things or not to touch other people. So you can start whenever you want. With my oldest, I didn't start until he was probably around 5 years old, which is a little late to be starting that not touching of people. I did teach him not to touch certain things, like things that were fragile. And I do think that that helped lay the foundation for teaching him boundaries when it came to other people and not touching other people. So let's talk about boundaries. Anytime that there is a line that you don't cross over, it's a boundary. So there's all different kinds of boundaries, okay? There's physical boundaries, there's psychological boundaries, that you have to observe sexual boundaries. There's all different kinds of boundaries. And it is up to a parent to teach their children all these boundaries. If a parent does not do their job in teaching their child how to observe boundaries, their child will be socially dysfunctional. They will not do well in social situations, in employment and relationships. It is on the head of the parent to make sure that those lessons are taught. Now, I do know that there's some children who struggle a little bit because maybe the child has, you know, a processing difference that makes them not observe boundaries really well. Just the other day, I was at the Capitol in my state and I met a young intern. When I met him, I could tell that he probably had ASD, and because you could just tell sometimes with people's mannerisms and stuff like that. But I have to tell you, he had been trained in his social boundaries. So he wanted to shake my hand. He did that properly. He maintained an appropriate distance from me. He maintained eye contact with me when he was talking to me. When somebody came and interrupted me, I know it was kind of hard for him. I could tell that was hard. He was in the middle of saying something, and it was difficult to not be able to finish because this other person was a member of the House of Representatives and kind of trumped the intern at that moment. And I needed to talk to them, but he stepped back and told himself that it was okay. And so I really think that, you know, he'd have some good training there. It is important that we conduct deliberate training. So how do we do that? Well, if you have subscribed to this channel and you've been following it for a while, then you know that I believe in skills training and deliberate teaching, which means I don't like to leave a lot of things to chance and, well, I hope they figure it out. I feel like that's not what a parent should be doing. They shouldn't be leaving their child adrift on the sea and then basically letting it so that anybody could teach them stuff. So I teach certain skills, and when it comes to social boundaries like touching, then I'm going to actually have a deliberate conversation with my child. And that's what I did with my son. I pulled him aside and I had what I call a parent counseling session. And if you don't know what a parent counseling session is, then be sure to get some extra training on that in the TSG parenting course or in the Fall Fresh Start on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. So I had a parent counseling session with him, which was a type of a meeting where we discuss one thing and I get him thinking about his solutions to those problems. And I mentioned that I noticed that his friend felt uncomfortable when he gave him a hug when he first came over, and that it could be that the friend is not okay with those types of touch boundaries, and that there might be a lot of people now that he is older that are not okay with those types of touch boundaries. So then we talked about how he could touch his siblings, how he could touch his parents, and we practiced that. We practiced how he could touch grandparents, how he could touch aunts and uncles and cousins, and how he could touch friends. So we told him how he could touch. We didn't focus on don't touch, don't touch. We focused on the appropriate way to touch. He might like high five somebody. He might, with a friend, have a thing where they do a knuckle bump, or he might, touch the friend's arm maybe at one point and be like, hey, come here, come look at this. We practiced scenarios. We actually role played what it would be like with all of those different people doing the touching. And he wasn't perfect after that, but that made a world of difference. Another thing I did was I taught him a certain skill. That skill is called accepting no answers and criticism. Now, I teach 4 basic skills for children. They are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. The skill that involves boundaries or lines we don't cross is the skill accepting no answers. This book here is one of the 4 children's books that teaches the 4 basic skills of self-government, and this book teaches accepting no answers. There are 4 steps to that skill. You look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body, you say okay to that no answer, whatever is saying no to you, whether it's a boundary line or whether it's a person telling you no, and then you drop the subject. That means you don't think about it anymore. You move on and you tell yourself it's okay to move on. I don't have to have that craving satisfied, whatever it was. Maybe it's, touching that person because maybe you crave that type of physical connection. If you have a child that is a toucher and their love language maybe is physical touch, then make sure you touch them a lot. People that get enough touch from their parents and their close family members like grandparents and stuff like that, they don't usually go craving as much of that touch with other people. Now, there are some really extroverted people who just dump a hug on everybody. And even though I'm extroverted and don't mind hugging or touching, when those people want to hug me every single time they see me, sometimes that even gets a little bit old. So if you have a person like that, or your child has a friend like that, you might have to teach the child how to politely decline and give a no answer to that person as well. Touching is important. It bonds people together, but also the wrong kind of touching can also be something that's dangerous. It can make people feel uneasy or feel even controlled. So we do have to deliberately talk about touching. It's part of life. It's part of relationships, and you definitely can do it. Now, I've told you a few skills here, and there are more skills that can definitely help with self-government. I want to teach you about those skills too. There is a video that I recommend next. If you haven't seen this video, it's called The Not-So-Known Secret for Parenting Success. That not-so-known secret is self-government, but I go into detail about all of the skills and principles of self-government so that you can not just have this one skill, but many more. So click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.